and secured our nation and restored our image as the last best hope on earth.
With the Democratic nomination under his belt, it was time to face his next opponent, the Republican presidential nominee, Arizona State Senator John McCain. Despite having worked together on that Immigration Reform Act, the two men couldn't be more different. Born in 1936, McCain is 25 years older than Obama and a retired Navy captain. Much of his initial appeal to voters lay in his impressive military record, which included capture and prolonged torture in Vietnam in 1967. Highly decorated, his medals include the famed Purple Heart. On the downside, he's been seen as a mere continuation of his predecessor.
You'll hear from my opponent's campaign in every speech, in every interview, every press release that I'm running for President Bush's third term. You'll hear every policy of the president is described as the Bush-McCain policy.
Whether Barack Obama can go all the way is yet to be seen. But whatever happens in November 2008, what cannot be refuted is that his career to date has been one for the history books. For such a comparatively young and inexperienced politician, his campaign strategies have been extraordinarily well thought out and executed. But that's not to say there haven't been missteps. One of the most significant concerned his long-term pastor and friend, the Reverend Jeremiah Wright.
We bombed Hiroshima, we bombed Nagasaki, and we nuked far more than the thousands in New York and the Pentagon, and we never batted an eye.
Wright's sermons had always been passionate and outspoken, but by March 2008 it was clear that Obama's association with the outspoken cleric was harming his reputation, and he regretfully disassociated himself from the church.
As imperfect as he may be, he has been like family to me. He strengthens my faith, officiated my wedding, and baptized my children. Not once in my conversations with him have I heard him talk about any ethnic group in derogatory terms, or treat whites with whom he interacted with anything but courtesy and respect. He contains within him the contradictions, the good and the bad, of the community that he has served diligently for so many years.
Then there was the link to Scarlett Johansson, when talk began to spread of an email relationship between the Hollywood actress and the presidential candidate.
I've been a supporter of surrogate of the Obama campaign for some time now, and I would think I was originally interested and attracted to Barack Obama because of his opposition to the war in Iraq, and I just think that he has amazing policies, and I think that he really is leading this incredible, inspiring movement for change, and I want to be a part of it.
Perhaps mindful of the trouble previous Democratic presidents had faced due to their associations with attractive younger women, Obama was swift to downplay the connection, telling reporters she didn't even have his personal email address. He said Johansson had sent an email to his assistant, Reggie Love, and he'd merely sent her a thank you note. Perhaps Johansson should have followed the lead of George Clooney, one of the few celebrities experienced enough to know that his support could be a double-edged sword.
Oh, I'm a big Obama guy. I've been an Obama guy from the very beginning. But, throwing your weight can often be, the elephant in the room if you're not careful. So, my father ran for Congress, and I didn't campaign for him because you can actually hurt him. So the idea is to try and support as much as you can and not get in the way.
Of greater concern to the Obama camp was the fallout he faced in April 2008 following his now infamous bitter speech, when he talked about small towns in the Midwest becoming bitter because they'd been let down by successive administrations. Obama's comments led to accusations of elitism and being out of touch, not only from his Republican opponents, but from others in his own party, including Hillary Clinton.
Senator Obama's remarks are elitist and they're out of touch.
But he weathered the storm, refusing to recant, but insisting that his remarks were merely badly phrased.
Something that everybody knows is true. When you're bitter, you turn to what you can count on. So people, they vote about guns, or they take comfort from their faith.
Since then, his battle for the presidency has been more about policy and issues, as he and McCain strive to position themselves as the man most capable to do the job.
Fifth from the bottom of his class at the Naval Academy. This shows
Not surprisingly, the Republicans seized upon Obama's inexperience. But one of Obama's most well-known supporters was quick to defend the candidate.
Barack Obama does not have the experience to be president of the United States. And I can prove that. Remember, he wasn't experienced enough to vote to authorize the invasion of Iraq. Instead, even then, he voted against a war he said would lead to an occupation of undetermined length, and undetermined costs, and undetermined consequences. He just didn't get it.
Obama still faces obstacles, not the least of which is that exotic name. And while in his home country, Obama is even now struggling to convince his compatriots in some areas that his name and background do not reveal a secret Muslim past. On the world stage, his popularity is remarkable, with Muslims and non-Muslims alike.
I'm bored of white men in America.
You want a black president?
Yes.
He, among all the candidates, shows the great empathy for the world outside of America and shows the greatest sincerity to apologize for America's mistakes.
One thing, because he is, I'll say, a multicultural person, but he is a voice that we haven't heard in a long time. A voice that we trust, a voice that brings us all together, that is black, white, Asian, Indian, whatever.
In July 2008, he made a brief tour overseas, first visiting the Middle East. His trip coincided with an attack by an Arab in which 24 Israelis were injured, just down the road from Obama's hotel.
And it's just one more reminder of why we have to work diligently, urgently, and in a unified way to defeat terrorism. There are no excuses. And I am absolutely committed to working with the Israeli government to make sure that these kinds of occurrences do not happen. And my thoughts and prayers go out to the families that have suffered as a consequence of today's vicious attacks. Thank you, everybody.
Obama then headed to Europe, where he met with heads of state in Germany, France, and Britain. And he overcame the potential embarrassment of not being allowed to speak in front of the Brandenburg Gate, as President Kennedy so famously did in 1963, by drawing over 200,000 people to his second-choice venue, the Victory Column in Tiergarten Park.
No one welcomes war. I recognize the enormous difficulties in Afghanistan. But my country and yours have a stake in seeing that NATO's first mission beyond Europe's borders is a success. For the people of Afghanistan and for our shared security, the work must be done. America can't do this alone. The Afghan people need our troops and your troops, our support and your support to defeat the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, to develop their economy, and to help them rebuild their nation. We have too much at stake to turn back now. Yes, there have been differences between America and Europe. No doubt there will be differences in the future. But the burdens of global citizenship continue to bind us together. A change of leadership in Washington will not lift this burden. In this new century, Americans and Europeans alike will be required to do more, not less. Partnership and cooperation among nations is not a choice. It is the only way, the one way, to protect our common security and advance our common humanity.
History shows that popularity overseas certainly doesn't equate to a win at home, and Obama's standing in the polls lost points following his European tour amongst accusations of flip-flopping on policies and being little more than a shallow celebrity. The latter was a criticism leveled by the McCain camp in an advertisement juxtaposing Obama with Paris Hilton and Britney Spears. The Obama camp played it cool, but displaying a hitherto unsuspected sense of humor, Hilton herself fired back, making her own presidential ad, which promised compromise in her energy policy and an intention to paint the White House pink.
I don't have any comments. I think the video speaks for itself, so people can just go to funnyordie.com and check it out for themselves.
Only I'm not from the olden days, and I'm not promising change like that other guy. I'm just hot. That wrinkly white-haired guy used me in his campaign ad, which I guess means I'm running for president. So thanks for the endorsement, white-haired dude. And I want America to know that I'm, like, totally ready to lead.
Fortunately, Obama had some heavier weights on his side.
We need change. We intend to have change.
He is tough-minded, but he also has an uncommon capacity to appeal to the better angels of our nature.
Knock down all of these old barriers that people thought existed with respect to the opportunities that are available for African Americans, and my congratulations to him.
Even a professional curmudgeon like Gore Vidal gave him the thumbs up, although it was something of a backhanded compliment.
How could he measure himself? What are the measuring rods? What will he do about the court? Whom he's going to appoint to the Supreme Court, or the other?
Don't you have to ask who he is, in a way? Don't you have to ask, is he a bright man? Is he a capable
Well,
man?
apparently he is.
You read his speech on race?
Yes, I listened to it.
It's quite a remarkable piece.
I've spent my life listening to remarkable pieces coming from Winston Churchill and poor Jack Kennedy. I'm not fetched by them.
But are you gloomy about an Obama presidency?
Don't see why I should be.
Well, you're gloomy about a lot else.
Well, he can't be worse than what we've got.
But Obama also showed the ability to attract grassroots support.
I think he's going to be a very positive candidate, and I think it's time for change, and I think he represents change. And I hope that everything that he's saying, that he stands by it, and look forward to the first black president.
And not just among African Americans.
Thank you so much.
People are supporting him in Iowa. People supported him in Iowa. You know, we saw the news. There were very, very little faces that looked like mine. So I don't think that race is playing a role in this.
And of course, this being America, there are always plenty of celebrities to count on.
A new, fresh, new candidate, and I was really impressed by the fact that he was not taking any money from special interest groups. It's like it's all individual donors. I thought that was the key thing. It wasn't actually the blackness, but you know that didn't hurt. Obama.
I'm excited about Senator Obama. I'm excited about just the desire for seeing change. I'm excited about, ecstatic about just how many Americans that are on the same page as me.
I just think he's just a perfect choice for the future of America. I spent a lot of time outside of the country, and I just think the things that he stands for and just just his background, his family, I truly appreciate who he is, and I think he'd be an absolutely wonderful president of the United States.
They have to be sexy, and I'd prefer if they were a man or a woman. But that's it. What else do you need in a president? And the ability to push a button, and that's it. Those are the three things, and you're good. And if your name's Barack Obama, that's the best.
I'll only say that we have a hero in the making back in the United States today, because we have a new candidate for president of the United States, Barack Obama, who I think for all of us that have dreams and hope, is a hero.
But for all the big names and familiar faces lining up to barrack for Barack, by August 2008, there was only one name voters were interested in hearing about. The name of the person Obama had selected as his running mate. On the 23rd of August, he took the novel step of releasing the scoop to his most dedicated followers first, via a text message to their mobile phones. He followed that with a public announcement in Springfield.
A man with a distinguished record, a man with fundamental decency, and that man is Joe Biden.
The career politician brought a wealth of experience to the campaign, plus personal qualities that complemented Obama's. Compared to the young, black, inexperienced Obama, the 65-year-old Biden brought maturity, whiteness, and 30 years of experience in the Senate. A dyed-in-the-wool Catholic, he had great appeal to the blue-collar, middle-class, erstwhile Hillary Clinton supporters. He was known for being a plain speaker and a solid friend of the working class. And surprisingly, given his staunch Catholicism, he was also pro-choice on the issue of abortion. There were, however, a few misgivings about the six-term senator, namely his tendency to speak out of turn on occasions. In fact, as soon as he was named as Obama's running mate, the McCain camp swiftly pounced on comments he'd made earlier in the race about Obama not being ready to be president. Allegations he wittingly countered by referring to McCain's campaign-damaging admission that he didn't know how many houses he and his wife owned.
You talk about how much you're worried about being able to pay the bills. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's not a worry John McCain has to worry about. It's a pretty hard experience. He'll have to figure out which of the 7 kitchen tables to sit at.
On the evening of Monday, the 25th of August, 2008, the Democratic Party began its national convention. Obama's wife, Michelle, was among the early speakers. Her address was carefully constructed to banish any lingering worries among the electorate that her husband was not just like them. She emphasized his ordinary family life and his unwavering and unquestionable patriotism. Michelle's speech was well received, but all campaign eyes were firmly on another woman. There had been much debate about Hillary Clinton's participation in the convention, and there was a definite sense of apprehension about what she would say. But when she took to the podium, it soon became clear that Hillary Clinton is a woman who puts the political before the personal, and for her, the only important thing would be putting a Democrat in the White House.
My friends, it is time to take back the country we love. And whether you voted for me or you voted for Barack, the time is now to unite as a single party with a single purpose.
But of course, Hillary comes as part of a package. And if the party faithful had always known in their heart of hearts that she would stay on message, they were not quite as sure of her husband, former President Bill Clinton. In the weeks leading up to the convention, there had been signs that Clinton was still smarting about the contest between his wife and Obama. Would he let those rumored personal feelings take precedence and possibly sabotage the support for the presumptive nominee?
Everything I learned in my 8 years as president, and in the work I have done since in America and across the globe, has convinced me that Barack Obama is the man for this job.
After his speech, the party members breathed an almost audible sigh of relief. And at the end of the week, it was Obama's turn. For a man already famous for making a number of inspirational speeches in front of huge crowds, this was still a momentous occasion. Leaving the convention center, Obama joined an 80,000-plus crowd at a local football stadium to formally accept his party's nomination for President of the United States.
To Chairman Dean and my great friend, Dick Durbin, and to all my fellow citizens of this great nation, with profound gratitude and great humility, I accept your nomination for presidency of the United States.
But despite the huge crowds and perhaps mindful of Republican allegations that his appeal was that of a celebrity with no real substance, Obama made sure his entrance was deliberately low-key.
4 years ago, I stood before you and told you my story of the brief union between a young man from Kenya and a young woman from Kansas who weren't well off or well known, but shared a belief that in America, their son could achieve whatever he put his mind to. It is that promise that's always set this country apart, that through hard work and sacrifice, each of us can pursue our individual dreams, but still come together as one American family to ensure that the next generation can pursue their dreams as well. That's why I stand here tonight. Because for 232 years, at each moment when that promise was in jeopardy, ordinary men and women, students and soldiers, farmers and teachers, nurses and janitors, found the courage to keep it alive. We meet at one of those defining moments, a moment when our nation is at war, our economy is in turmoil, and the American promise has been threatened once more. Tonight I say to the people of America, to Democrats and Republicans and independents across this great land, enough. This moment, this election is our chance to keep, in the 21st century, the American promise alive. The fundamentals we use to measure economic strength are whether we are living up to that fundamental promise that has made this country great, a promise that is the only reason I am standing here tonight. Because in the faces of those young veterans who come back from Iraq and Afghanistan, I see my grandfather, who signed up after Pearl Harbor, marched in Patton's army, and was rewarded by a grateful nation with the chance to go to college on the GI Bill. In the face of that young student who sleeps just 3 hours before working the night shift, I think about my mom, who raised my sister and me on her own while she worked and earned her degree, who once turned to food stamps but was still able to send us to the best schools in the country with the help of student loans and scholarships. Now, I don't know what kind of lives John McCain thinks that celebrities lead, but this has been mine. These are my heroes. Theirs are the stories that shaped my life. And it is on behalf of them that I intend to win this election and keep our promise alive as President of the United States. Individual responsibility and mutual responsibility. That's the essence of America's promise. And just as we keep our promise to the next generation here at home, so must we keep America's promise abroad. If John McCain wants to have a debate about who has the temperament and judgment to serve as the next commander-in-chief, that's a debate I'm ready to have. We are the party of Roosevelt.